Dear Dhamma friends, we are coming to the short Dhamma sermon today. So I have selected different sutta since we have discussed several suttas. Today I have selected the Sabbasava Sutta. This is related to the taints. You know, in the Buddha's teaching, there are various levels of defilements are explained. Among them, the most difficult one is the hidden tendencies, anusaya. And there's a big relationship with anusaya to the asava, where we call as taints. And the other two categories are called pariyuttana, obsessive defilements, and the other one is the vitikkama kilesa, that is the transgression level. Those are not difficult to understand. Say, for example, suppose you encounter an animal, a serpent, and at that time, if you feel really angry or if you feel really afraid, probably you can kill the animal. So at that time, we are simply transgressing the precept. So there we get a transgressional level defilement, where we are breaking a precept. Similarly, anger, lust, all these are available, the various defilements are available. And once we transgress the precept, then we are reaching to that maximum level. And then there's another level, which is the availability in the mind. Mind has fairly polluted, mind has defiled, but still we haven't transgressed the precept. We didn't do any sort of an immoral thing. Rather, still the mind is burning. Mind has encountered some sort of a defilement. So that we call as pariyuttana kilesa. That is actually at the level of obsession level. So those are, in a way, when we are developing mindfulness, we can slowly improve the mindfulness as well as we are improving the sensitivity. As a result, we can recognize various defilements at various levels. Say, for example, if we take a typical scenario, suppose you get angry. So if you are not mindful, basically when you know that you become angry, you have became angry, was that you have blamed someone or you have even hit someone. After that, you may be regretting that you did a bad thing, you did a wrong thing. I should have not do that. So it's a kind of a mistake. So likewise, you get a sort of a regret. And at that time, you feel really unhappy, you feel depressed. At that time, you understand it's a mistake. That is where mostly the typical worldly people are there, where they don't have any mindfulness at all. They immediately react, immediately blame, immediately shout, immediately hit, get into a quarrel, and later they regret. But suppose you are sort of now developing mindfulness. At that time, this sensitivity of the mind further improves and you start to be mindful. And as a result, before you becoming regret, at the level of transgression, you can be aware. You know that you are now burning with, say, anger, and you even blame the other person, you even hit the other person, but you may be mindful. Still, you couldn't stop. Because so powerful the defilement is, so you couldn't stop, but you did the transgression. But you know that. But you are now continuing your development, continuing the mindfulness practice. As a result, now you get into another stage where the burning level is there, defilement is obsessive level is there. Now you can stop reacting. Now you can stop the transgression. Now you can avoid blaming or sort of hurting the other person, attacking the other person. But the inner burning is still there. Now there's an improvement because you didn't go to the transgressional level. Suppose you are continuing the mindfulness. As a result, now when anger arising in your mind, before it coming to the peak level, you may be able to recognize. So that is another level. So now you are not going to the previous burning level, but rather now to some lower degree you can recognize. but still you know that you are angry. Still you know that you are going through anger. Suppose you are further improving mindfulness. At that time, what happens is your sensitivity further improves, mindfulness further improves, you are fairly awakened. So at that time, at the very initial level of anger, you can recognize. Now, so that is where the mindfulness actually helps you to recognize various defilements. This applies to lust, this applies to jealousy, and to any other defilement. But suppose there may be a stage where there is no anger. So your mind is fairly peaceful. That also you can be aware. You know that there is no anger, mind is fairly peaceful. But still, do you think that you are free from anger? You are now a saint. We can't say so, because there are latent tendencies in the mind. So this is a kind of a finding of the Buddha. Even though the surface of the mind is fairly free, pure, still there may be hidden tendencies. So till we are able to uproot those hidden tendencies, we can't say that we are completely free. So that is the sort of a crucial point where we can use various techniques to overcome transgressional level. Say, for example, you are making a vow, or you are taking precepts. At that time, you are trying to avoid killing other living beings, avoid stealing, avoid sexual misconduct, avoid lying, slandering, taking intoxicants. So all these things you can avoid as a result of taking precepts. On the other hand, suppose you are doing some meditation, so calming, fairly peaceful, fairly tranquil. So at that time, the mind is free from the hindrances. Therefore, the transgressional level, what you call the obsessional level defilements are still not available, because they are calmed down. Hindrances are calmed down. How about hidden tendencies? And these stains, asavas, they are still there. So the samadhi, concentration, tranquility, does not answer the question of eliminating these various hidden tendencies, these various asavas, taints. So that we have to address in a separate manner. So this is one of the unique teaching of the Buddha. So recognizing various latent tendencies of the mind and sort of influxes of the mind. So this is not that easy. So there are three types of influxes, or three types of taints Buddha talking here. And first one is kamasava, the sensual desire. So as we are born into this sensual world, there are various sensual desires. We all like to hear music. We all like to see beautiful sceneries. And we all like to have a good food, tasty food, and to have good sensations. So these all panchakama, all these five sensual desires and the chords of sense pleasure are there, and we are trying hard to acquire them, trying hard to feel them, enjoy them. So this is the typical nature of the beings. Not only humans, but all the beings are trying hard, trying their best to satisfy their senses. So all these satisfactions, all these endeavors are driven by kamasava. Internally they have the taint of sensual lust. Kamasava. Sensual desire is there as an internal inherent quality. We can't say it as a good quality, by the way, but anyway, it's an inherent quality that all beings are having. And there's another asava called bhavasava, where we want to live in the next moment. We want to continue to living. I want to live a long life. I want to be reborn as someone. I want to become this. I want to become that. And we may have various ambitions, and we are having an encouragement. All this actually helps to plan for the future and desire for the future, and again have various expectations, and all these actually contributes to this desire for being, bhavasava. And it does not stop into this level, and it may be going even to the future lives. You maybe want to have a better life in the next life, better sensations, better comfort in the next life. Suppose there's a very poor person, and he may be preserving various goods, and he may be protecting precepts, and maybe doing even some good things, maybe to become a rich person in the next life, or maybe to become a deva on the next life. So because there's a kind of expectation about the future and kind of continuation in the future, and you don't need to stop this cycle, rather you want to continue. So we all have that. So this is called bhavasava. These are very inherent qualities or inherent tendencies in ourselves. All the beings have these inherent tendencies. And then the ignorance, avijja, thinking that there is a person here, there is a self here, and there's an ongoing soul or self here. So these are other inherent qualities, we say, which are basically due to the ignorance. Now these, when we are thinking or when we are talking about this, we can understand it, recognizing them itself is not easy, and uprooting them is also not easy. So therefore Buddha talks about these three types of taints, and he is giving us various strategies to overcome them. Now, and the other point is, only when we know them and only when we see them, it will be allow us to free from them. Without knowing, without seeing, we can't be free from them. So that's the other point. Now, if you think that you can stay in a long time in meditation, and especially in a jhana or higher absorption, that itself does not uproot these defilements. But on the other hand, if you are able to do various other rituals, expecting sort of removal of these influxes, that's also not possible. So therefore, Buddha categorically mentions, Janato bhikkhave passato asavanam khayang vadami no ajjanato no apassato. Only for the ones who know and see these influxes, to them I say, the purification is possible. Now you can understand, if you want to completely free from samsara, then we need to address this problem. Now, seeing what? So this is another point Buddha highlighting. So there is a technique called yoniso manasikara. That is where we are trying to see the root, see the cause. Rather than stopping at the surface level, the yogi or the practitioner is expected to see the causes. Suppose you got kind of an ailment. So you can have a plaster, or you can do any kind of a typical medicine, apply or take, but still it may come again because the roots may be still there. You didn't address the proper reason. But if you are able to address the proper reason, if you are finding out the causes, why these symptoms are available, what are the causes, then you are addressing the proper reason. So likewise, so in the yoniso manasikara, rather than limiting ourselves to the outside appearance, we are now trying to go to the bottom. We are now trying to go to the root, to the source. So therefore, yoniso manasikara is one of the important quality or skill that one needs to develop. So therefore, we have to eliminate all these unnecessary beautifications, unnecessary, say, addings, and only we have to take the essentials and go to the root, so that our path is clear, path become profound, and the attention become well refined. But if we have on many other attachments, many other various hooks all around our mind, then it's difficult to go to the root. Therefore, yoniso manasikara helps us to eliminate all those unnecessary additions and to go to the real cause, to the root cause. So if we are able to look at these causes, if you are able to go to the root to apply Yoniso Manasikara, then Buddha says the unarisen taints may not arise and the arisen taints may reduce. But on the other hand, if we stop at the surface level, if you do only a superficial living or superficial understanding, then it does not eliminate taints, rather it may enhance taints. Say, for example, to give you a simple example, suppose a young man looking at a young girl. So the girl may be beautiful and the young man, the young boy may have sensual desire, maybe lust. Because he has seen the beauty, he has seen the outside, the superficial sight only he has seen. So it has further improves the lust in his mind, and therefore it contributes towards the Kamasava. And now he wants to have her, to marry her, to love her, and all these things are there. So further and further various defilements are going to arise. But on the other hand, if someone is looking at her in a different angle, seeing that this body is made up with various bodily parts, or this body is nothing but 4 elements. So there you are going to some deep levels, how this body is being made up, what are the causes, what are the conditions. And all these actually helps to eliminate lust, to eliminate attachment, and therefore not to contribute towards that Kamasava. So therefore you can see this going to the root, finding out the sources, causes, have a significant impact on whether we are developing asavas or whether we are sort of eliminating or reducing asavas. Now Buddha coming up with 7 strategies to eliminate asava, to eliminate the taints. The first one is dasana pahatabba, elimination by seeing. Second one, abandon by restraining. So that is where you are able to restrain yourself. And then when we have something to use, and using it wisely, we'll discuss them one by one. And there may be times to endure certain things. And then there are avoidings, and then removing, and then ultimately the developing. Now, when I am telling these 7 things, don't think that they have a linear relationship. Rather, they are circumstantial. Whenever depends on the situation, we have to apply either one of them or many of them. So therefore, they have some interrelationship, as well as there is no sort of an orderly relationship here. So when time permits and when it is suitable, we can apply any of these techniques. They are like a kind of a toolbox. When the appropriate time arrives, you have to use the appropriate tool. Similarly, Buddha is teaching us these various 7 methods to overcome taints, and we should be wise enough to apply the proper one. Now, if we take the first one, Atibhikkave asava dasana pahatabba. Amongst there are taints, by seeing they can be eliminated. So this seeing is not seen by the eye. Rather, we have to use that what you call Yoniso Manasikara to see. So you have to go to the bottom. You have to go to the source. Then only you can recognize. Then only you can see. Otherwise, we are simply in the surface. As I mentioned, when you are seeing a girl, when you are seeing a boy, so if we simply stop at the surface level, then we end up with getting attached to him or her, or even getting angry with him or her, because we only stop at the conventional level. But on the other hand, if you are able to penetrate, if you are able to see the reality, then there's a fair chance of removing or at least reducing these defilements, to reducing these stains. Therefore, Yoniso Manasikara is one of the important aspects of this playing with tens. And therefore, Buddha first talks about the worldly being. The typical person who doesn't know any of these, he simply stays in the conventional level. So he has the typical mother, father, brother, sister, wife, husband, children, the world, and everything, as we all know, as the correct thing, as the common truth. So he is simply living in this common truth, and in a way it is correct. So that is what I mean. He has all these problems, COVID problems, political problems, various wars, battles, say politics. So many problems are there. He know only that. There is no escape. There is no any other way out. He only sort of mingle with it, and that person is extremely entangled in it. And he has never heard about the Buddha's teaching, and basically he don't know how to properly think. So constantly he is thinking in a wrong way. More he think, more he get entangled. More he even get depressed. More he even get angry. Because the way of thinking, the methodology of thinking is completely wrong. So more he think, more he get entangled. More he become depressed. So, and there may be various things which is not fit for thinking. If we think about in that angle, then we get further entangled. We get further confused. But this person, not knowing it, he more and more think in that line. More and more think in that wrong way. So ultimately become really confused. And even get depressed. There may be various proper way of thinking, correct way of thinking, but this person doesn't know those things. He is not aware of those proper way of thinking. So therefore he does not apply his mind to those. Therefore he can't get the benefit of that correct way of thinking. So the ultimate result is that he is further improving the defilements, enhancing the defilements. So the all unarisen taints are rising, and the arisen taints are further improving or growing. And in the Sabbasava Sutta, Buddha talks about 16 types of wrong thinking. Now this is where the self-view is strengthened. So we believe that there is a self here, there is I, me, and you, and all these relationships are there, various individualities are there. So according to that, we are thinking. So if we think about the past, so you may be questioning yourself, was I in the past? Or was I not in the past? Then what was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What did I become in the past? So these are the various ways that we even might have thought. So there is I at the moment, in the present there was I, there is I. And that I, how was I in the past? And was I not in the past? Is this my first birth? So likewise, people can think in many different ways. And all this thinking has an I component. There's a self-view. All this thinking has self-view, strengthening self-view, strengthening Sakkaya-ditthi. And regarding the future, shall I be in the future? So suppose someone is believing the future birth or what you call the rebirth. Suppose he is thinking, shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? Suppose someone is coming and challenging you. You won't be in the future. Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? Am I be a deva? Am I be a human? Am I be an animal? What shall I be in the future? Then how shall I be in the future? Was my life be a good one? Or will I encounter any hardships, difficulties? Do I have to suffer in the hell? So various thoughts, various doubts. Having been what shall I be in the future? So likewise, people can think in many different ways about the future. More you think, more you get confused. More you get on to certain uncertainties. Because the future is entirely vulnerable and future is entirely uncertain. So more you think, more you get confused, more you feel unsatisfied, more you feel troubled or unrest or sort of frustrated. And regarding the present, there are also people can think, he can sort of have a sort of an inner reflection, and he may be looking at himself. Suppose you are going in front of a mirror. Now you can see the image, and you are looking at it and you see the image, and you are looking at, oh, this is me, this is I. Am I looking good? Am I looking bad? Is my hairstyle good? Is my hairstyle bad? Am I getting some, say, gray hair? So all many difficult problems are there because you have seen the image. And am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where did it go? Now we are combining the past and the future to the present. And there's a question from where I have come from to where I will go. So there are 6 questions related to the present. Now, if someone is thinking like this, so there's a big self-view, I component, and the more he think, more he get confused, and the bad thing is, or the consequence is, that he may get on to certain wrong view. Therefore, Buddha says, this way of thinking, this way of proliferation is a kind of an invitation for wrong thinking, wrong view, vichaditi. So therefore, Buddha says, this is a kind of a thicket of views, this is a kind of a wilderness of views, contortion of views, kind of vacillation of views, a fetter of views. Because there are more one may think, more confused he get, and he may get entangled to one of the wrong views. Kind of self exists or self does not exist, or I perceive a self with the existing self, I perceive a not self with the self. So likewise, you get many different way of views, wrong views, because of this wrong thinking. You know, it is not that immediately one's mind get conditioned or immediately one's mind get wrong viewed. Rather, one has to be slowly condition the mind. And then only one becomes strongly adhere to that wrong view. So that is why this way of wrong thinking is extremely harmful, because we believe that there is a self, we believe that there is an I, we believe that there is a person, and with respect to that person, now we are trying to think and try to understand the past, the future, and the present. So the very fundamental understanding is wrong. That is where we think that there is a person, there is an I, and this I is now thinking. This I is now planning. This I is now pondering. So likewise, the I is the sort of the problem here. But anyway, this is how we all think whenever we are thinking. So more we think, more we get frustrated, more we get confused, and more we even get depressed. So therefore, Buddha really discourage this way of thinking, because this is the wrong thinking. And actually there are various confusions, and not only that, you may even get on to various troubles with others, quarrels with others, fights with others, and many issues are coming because of this wrong view. So this is the typical wrong way of thinking that Buddha is talking in this Sabbasava Sutta, and he asked us not to do it. Instead, he is asking us to know how to do proper thinking. Instead of doing wrong thinking, he is inviting us to do proper thinking. Now, this proper thinking also is something that we have to learn in a way, how to handle the mind, how to restrain the mind, how to stop proliferation. Now you can recognize you have to get on to some practical aspects. Just knowing these teachings does not help. Rather, you have to train the mind. It is not immediately possible to stop thinking. Rather, you have to train the mind by various other methods to avoid wrong way of thinking. Therefore, you can see when we are discussing one method, we may have to get the support of other methods. Now, in this method, you may have to get the support of, say, the meditation, the bhavana. And on the other hand, you may get the support of even the association of good friends or association of the Buddha's teaching. So likewise, there are various other helps or the other strategies you may have to use in order to strengthen this aspect. Now, if someone is knowing what is necessary to think and what is harmful to think, then that person can actually minimize wrong way of thinking and he can maximize right way of thinking. And actually we'll discuss these strategies next week because it may take some time, because I don't like to simply rush it. These are one important aspect, how to properly think, and there actually Buddha talks about Four Noble Truths, and that is also a very important subject. So therefore I'll conclude today's sermon, and I invite you to ask questions if you have any, or if you have any reports regarding your practice, we can discuss that now.
I'm sorry, Bhante, there are currently 5 questions. But just before we go into that, I have a short announcement. We wanted some feedback on the next session and also the Sutta selection. So when you get a chance, please look at the form. I'll just put it into the window now. Okay. Question number 1 of 4, mindful sitting. Dear Bhante, I have been practicing regularly when this wonderful program started and recently missed many opportunities to do sitting. However, I did walking practice whenever I get a chance most of the time, at least once or twice a week for 1 hour. Due to a personal situation, I could not do sitting for about a month. I somehow found a place and 1 hour last week and tried sitting. Thanks to Bhante's excellent teaching, I could get the technique right immediately, but it was continuous effort afterwards. Mind popping and put to various thoughts, and I was bringing it back to the breath. I did not have the calm and settling of mind even after 45 minutes of effort. My question is, if we miss the practice for some time, do we go back to the initial stages of struggling, or there is a good chance we can recover quickly? I can logically think that it should be easier by now, but thought of checking with Bhante while planning and wishing a regular practice. With metta, that's the end.
Yeah, actually it depends. It depends on where you are. So basically, suppose you are on the initial
excuse me, Bhante, I think you're mute.
Okay.
Yeah, the sound's come back.
Now is it okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. So basically, this depends on the situation, on the person. Now, suppose you are on your early stages of practice. There are various defilements and many anger, a lot of distractions. You get a lot of lust, and you feel drowsy and many doubts. On such situation, if you stop after a couple of months, you may come to the 0 level. Again, you have to start from the beginning, because you are still not that not that improved in your practice. But on the other hand, suppose you are practicing for several years and you know now what is mindfulness, you know now how to handle the mind, you know, you have experienced certain amount of concentration, you have experienced some amount of vipassana. So at that time, suppose due to some reason you couldn't stop for say couldn't practice for several weeks. So you may be able to reduce the loss. Suppose now you start again practicing. You may not immediately land on the previous stage, but at least you know how to handle it, because you yourself have various, you yourself learn various techniques. You yourself have learned various techniques, as well as and you yourself have experienced certain states, and therefore within a short time you can recover. Within a short time you can get back to the previous stage. So therefore it depends on where you are, and if you have practiced quite a long time, then a short period of avoidance has less impact. But on the other hand, if you are on the initial stage, then a period of avoidance may take you to the very early stage or to the zero stage. So there's a beautiful simile given anyway. It's very much like you are boiling water. So suppose you are boiling water. Now you boiled it for 5 minutes. It didn't really boil. But now you suppose switch off the kettle. Now you leave for 15 minutes. And again you now switch on and let it boil for another 5 minutes. After that again suppose you switch off and let it cool down for another 15 minutes. Suppose you again switch it on for another 5 minutes. Do you think that you can boil water? So basically this way we can never boil water, because we always stop in between and let things calm down. Not really, calming down in the sense of positive aspect. Rather, we never constantly practice. We never constantly giving enough energy. So as a result, we can never get on to any good result, or to sort of fruition or culmination of the practice. So similarly, Buddha says, when consider our practice, it has to be consistent. It has to be a kind of a daily practice. So we may not encounter, say, good results immediately. But if we continue daily practice, like your daily, you have to eat. Daily you have to wash your mouth. Say, wash yourself, have a bath. So it's a kind of, it has become a sort of a habit of your life. Similarly, this mental training, mindfulness practice also has to become a habit of your life. Then only slowly, you may be able to get some considerable or significant result at the end of, not really at the end, but rather after some time, after significant time, you can feel that you know something, or you can really feel the benefits of the practice. Yeah.
Question number 2 of 5. This one is a general question. Dear Sir, appreciate if you can explain the 2 methods of Vipassana practice, which comes in, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Bhikkhunanupassana Sutta. Does that make sense, Bhante?
Bhikkhunanupassana Sutta. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I may recollect, the first one is building awareness with the help of an object, such as focusing exclusively on the breath. The second one is without any object, but being aware of where the mind is in a very vigilant manner. It will be helpful if Bhante can explain the second method a bit in detail, and when we should start using it in normal practice, after getting trained with an object. With metta, that's the end of the question.
Actually, Bhikkhunanupassana Sutta does not say specially about the, not knowing the object, or without having any object. Rather, it generally talks about Satipatthana and the other samatha practice. It is having two terms called Panidhaya Bhavana, Apanidhaya Bhavana. Panidhaya Bhavana refers as sort of a practice with a given sign, or practice with applying the mind to the same object again and again, and it's a kind of a present object. Say, for example, you are practicing Buddhaguna, Buddhanussati. So there you are sort of reflecting about the Buddha's qualities to your mind again and again, so that your mind becomes pleasant and you feel faithful and you feel happy. So this is a kind of a Panidhaya Bhavana. In a way, in other terms, this is Samatha Bhavana. On the other hand, there is Apanidhaya Bhavana, that is the Satipatthana, where there is no single object. Rather, there are many different objects are possible. Even though we talk about Anapanasati and all these things considering only one object, but later, even on that object, the breaths are constantly changed. It is not the same breath that you are observing. Rather, it's a series of breaths. Only at the present moment breath you are aware. After a while it disappears, and then the next breath is available. So likewise, there is no sort of a unchanging object. Rather, it's a kind of a series of objects. So changing of objects are there. And therefore, even the different types of objects are there. And you do sort of a vipassana bhavana in a way. So what Buddha points out here is sometimes when you do this Apanidhaya Bhavana or the Satipatthana practice, probably you might feel little tired because you need to properly aim the object, you need to properly focus to the object, you need to look at various signs or various marks of the object, you need to understand the behavior of the object. There is a little work to do. There's a fairly scrutinized observation is there. So it may be a little tiresome. So therefore, at that time, Buddha say, if you feel really tired and if you feel that your mind is now being lethargic, you are losing the energy to continue, at that time, Buddha, as a strategy, Buddha says, okay, now you can shift to Panidhaya Bhavana. Now you can switch to Buddhanussati. Because the Buddhanussati helps here to, again, energize yourself, again, develop fair amount of faith, again, to have a pleasant feeling of the practice. Again, you feel blissful. So, I have taken only Buddhanussati as the example, but there are many other, say, jhanic practices, or any other Dhammanussati, Sanghanussati, Upasamanussati, and many different other techniques are there. So they help us to re-energize our mind. Again, to have a sort of a, kind of a desire to practice. So once you are again energized, now Buddha asks us to switch back to Satipatthana, because that is the one actually giving you the lasting result. That is the one contributing towards the wisdom. So therefore, these two types of meditation, Buddha asks us to use depending on the circumstance. Yeah.
Question number 3 of 6. Sorry, General question. Bhante, in pure mindfulness practice, we talk about being aware of everything and accommodating all. There is no effort to abandon anything. In Sabbasava Sutta, you explain that arisen taints should be abandoned. How can we link the mindfulness practice and non-judgmental concept with this teaching? That's the end.
Yeah, actually, the mindfulness practice itself helps us to abandon these defilements. Actually, it's a kind of a progressive practice. Say at the beginning, when your mindfulness is not strong enough, you cannot immediately look at various defilements available in the mind, arising in the mind, and mindfulness still does not give the proper result or address them. Rather, at that time, you have to use various other techniques. Say, for example, you are simply a beginner of to the practice, so you have a lot of lustful thoughts in the mind. If you try to look at those thoughts, lustful thoughts, you get even caught up with the thoughts. So that indicates that you are not yet suitable for Chittanupassana. So what is the solution? So at this time, you can use Asubha practice. You can look at the body in a different angle. So this body is not a really beautiful thing. Rather, it has so many bodily parts, and each and every part is really loathsome, and therefore there is no real beauty, there is no real essence here. So likewise, if you are able to look at this loathsomeness of the body, then it may address the arisen lust, and arisen lust may calm down. You are able to take your mind to the middle level, to the equanimous level. So likewise, suppose you are getting really angry. At that time, if you try to look at anger, you maybe even get caught to anger. You get really angry. That indicates your mindfulness is not strong enough. And you actually understood anger at very high level, because at your mindfulness and the sensitivity of the mind is low. Therefore, you couldn't recognize it at the inception level. So therefore, what is the answer? So at this time, probably you can take metta, loving kindness meditation. Or you can look at in many other techniques to handle this defilement. So this is anyway is not the correct approach. These are all temporary solutions. But anyway, you are continuing your mindfulness practice. You are developing satipatthana. Say you are developing more and more anapanasati, rising and falling, dhatu manasikara, or you do vedananupassana. And now suppose after some time you gradually have the confidence to look at the mind. Now you can recognize lustful thought as lustful thought. You can recognize anger as anger. So at that time, when anger is available, you can look at anger without getting caught to anger. So there you can look at it objectively. Now your mindfulness is fairly strong. So therefore you have a good foundation. You have a good island to fight with the enemies, something like that. So your bunker is fairly strong now. It is not a weak bunker. It's not a weak fortress. It's a fairly strong fortress. Similarly, your mindfulness is fairly strong. Now you can look at various defilements at their very early stages. So they are quite weak. And as a result, you can this simple watching or simple awareness, simple mindfulness itself is strong enough to dilute the defilement. So this is how the mindfulness practice get onto the picture. So at these levels, being aware of various defilements by mindfulness is actually helping to tackle it. It may check the defilement. But when you really know this is a defilement, you know that you recognize it is not something beneficial to me, this is something that I have to uproot. So that is the wisdom. So the wisdom helps us to avoid fertilizing it, avoid promoting it, because you have taken the correct decision. You have properly recognized this as a defilement. This is not a positive quality to develop. Rather, this is something harmful to me. So this is a kind of a shortcoming in my character. I have to overcome this shortcoming. So this is the kind of an understanding. This is the wisdom. So wisdom helps to drive it away. So there's a beautiful verse coming in Sutta Nipata. Where Buddha says, Yāni sotāni lokasmin satitesam nivaranam. Sotānam sangvaram brumi paññāyete pitiyare. So whatever the floods of defilements are available in this world, mindfulness is the check. Mindfulness is the restrainment. The wisdom is the one completely dry it out. So mindfulness helps us to really check it, really restrain it, really stop the flow. And when we apply wisdom to it, then that helps to uproot it. That helps to eradicate it, dry it. So it's therefore in that level of practice, mindfulness and wisdom go hand in hand.
Question number 4 of 6. This is a general question. Dear Bhante, much merits for clarification and guidance. I would like to know in simple terms, how does the focus on the body relate to enhancing your practice? Is it because we are anchored to the body as a single point, Or is it because we are anchored to the present moment in terms of time? Or is it neither of these and something else? As a beginner, appreciate your clarification. Much merits. That's the end of the question.
What is the question, Chatu? The first.
How does the focus on the body relate to enhancing your practice?
Actually, now, so we need to, we have to observe various phenomena. So this body is something that we constantly think belongs to me, and this is beautiful, this is strong. So likewise, we have a strong attachment to the body, and due to the body, we have a lot of defilements. So we have a lot of misunderstandings, ignorance related to the body. So we need to penetrate the body, therefore. And we identify with the body. This is me, this is I, and there is I here. So when you are referring, okay, I went to Colombo, I went to, say, Melbourne. So there you refer the body has taken from this place to the other place. But I recognize, so I identify with the body as a person, as an I. So this wrong understanding, this wrong view has to be uprooted. So there should be a methodology to do it. You can't simply read a book and do it. Rather, there should be a systematic approach to remove this defilement. So that is where you need to look at the body. You have to sort of look at the body objectively in many different ways so that this self-view will be ultimately eliminated. The wrong view that there's a person here, there's an individual here, there's an I here. So this wrong view has to be eliminated. So in order to do that, so we have to do Kayanupassana. And Kayanupassana sort of breaks the very hard layer. And then maybe Vedanaupassana, Chittanupassana further penetrate that wrong view, and maybe in one time may be able to completely purify the mind from this wrong view. Yeah.
Question number 5 of 7. This is a general question. Bhante, you mentioned that one has to get conditioned for some time to get into a wrong view. However, self-existence comes from our childhood, and it seems inevitable we all have this wrong view. Is there anyone apart from arahants and noble ones who do not have this wrong view? That's the end of the question.
Yeah, actually wrong view also has many different ways. So when we consider Miccha Ditti, suppose thinking that when we say there is no point of doing merits and this life may end on this life. So rather after the death, there is no future birth, there is no mother, there is no father, there is no meaning of doing merit. And so likewise, one may not believe in karma. So likewise, there are many harmful wrong views. So those harmful wrong views, you can fairly eliminate by getting to the proper Sammaditthi. That is the Buddha's, to the Buddha's teaching. It may be by Sutta by reading, by listening Dhamma, and by your own contemplation. And you start to believe the karma. Still, you may not really sort of you yourself encounter it, but rather you believe it. You believe, you think, okay, there may be possibility that the karma exists. If I do wrong thing, I may encounter wrong results, bad results, consequences. If I do good things, I may get the good results. So likewise, you establish yourself in the belief of karma. So therefore, Buddha give a kind of a different approach to this question, where he first requests us to establish ourselves in the mundane type of Sammaditthi. This is called Kammasagata Sammaditthi. Kind of a mundane type of Sammaditthi is the first approach. So first of all, we have to establish on that. First of all, we have to be a good person. So we have to be believing in karma, because if karma is there, definitely we will be in trouble if we neglect it. If karma, if the results is not there, then even if we do correct thing, so it's no harmful. It's a kind of apannaka patipada. So you take the benefit to the doubt. where, I mean, if it exists, then you'll be in trouble if you do bad things. But on the other hand, if it exists, if you do correct things, definitely you get the correct results or good results. Therefore, first of all, we have to be a good person, some sappurisa. So this is the first stage. So once you are a sappurisa, so there is a self-view still. So you do good things, you do dana, you take precepts, you do sila, you go to the temple, you help the poor, and you become compassionate person. So likewise, all these actually accumulate merit. And it has a benefit. And now you say you understand there is a mother, there is father, I have to attend to the mother, father. I mean, these things are good. So likewise, you recognize what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. So this understanding is necessary. And on top of that, while keeping that as the foundation, then we have to develop further. So that is called the Lokottara Sammaditthi or the supramundane Sammaditthi. So likewise, Buddha is giving a fairly comprehensive answer to this question.
Question number 6 of 7. Bhante, is it okay if we go a little bit over time today?
Yeah.
General question. Dear Bhante, I have a question. Today I remembered an argument I had with my husband 6 years ago. 6 years ago when the argument started, I did not argue with my husband, but I suppressed it in my heart. Today, after 6 years, this memory came out with a lot of force. I felt the forceful anger that I suppressed 6 years ago. Then I identified this feeling as an anger. I watched it rise and it passed away. Is this what I did today, suppressing or uprooting the taints? Appreciate your guidance with metta and much merits. That's the end.
Yeah, that's the example I also have taken. So if we are, when more we become mindful, we can recognize defilement. So recognizing defilement as a defilement is not a bad thing. So that is what the Buddha talking as sandittika dhamma. Knowing lust as lust is a sandittika dhamma. Knowing anger as anger is a sandittika dhamma. Sandittika dhamma means it's a living dhamma. It's a present dhamma. At this very moment it is present. At this very moment it is so electric. So at this very moment you know the quality of the mind. If it is lustful, you know. If it is angry, you know. If it is resentful, you know. If it has sort of burden, you know. At this very moment. So that is very necessary. Without that knowledge, you can't purify the mind. So once you know, at this moment, mind is going through some anger. So now you can step back and look at it. You can step back and look at it objectively without claiming it as me or mine. It is simply anger. This anger. Now you are not promoting it. You are not fertilizing it. As a result, it starts to fade away. So this is how we have to handle it. Next time when this same memory come into your mind, it may not rise to the same level. So that is how it actually fades away. It is not immediately by first look, it may completely remove. Rather, next time suppose you are again remembering the same incident which has happened 6 years ago. At that time, you may not come into the same level of anger. Suppose today it reached the 75% level. But next time it may come to 60%. Don't remember this values, by the way. I'm just explaining by giving various values. So suppose another week, after another week, suppose you get the same memory. 6 years ago, I had this kind of an argument. But at that time, you still may get angry, but maybe 50%. It may not reach even 60%. So likewise, it may reduce and reduce. So this is how we eliminate all these bad wounds or what you call various memories when this pops up into the mind. So it may become less impactful to the mind.
Question number 7. This is the very last one. General question. Dear Venerable Sir, thank you so much and much merits for all the advice and guidance you provided on our practice. I really like attending this program and feel content every time I attend this session. I feel good. My question is, can you please explain what is meant by, and I'll have a good go at this, Bhayatu
Bhayatu Patthana Jnana.
That's it. which with much merits and metta. That's the end.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, when you are continuing your vipassana practice, so you may recognize that all, say, various, say, bodily parts or various elements are constantly arising and passing away. And all various feelings constantly arising and passing away. Various thoughts, mental states constantly arising and passing away. So at that time, there could be a kind of a fear arising in the mind. Could be. I mean, it's not everybody. To some, there could be a possibility of arising certain fear in the mind because it is something that belongs to you now constantly going through this kind of arising and passing away. It's so vulnerable, so transient. Now where am I going to last? Where am I going to survive? Because everything is arising and passing away. Everything is so transient. So you feel really sort of fearful because of this transient nature, by seeing yourself the transient nature of the body and the mind. So this is where it's a kind of a, what you call as an insight called Bhayatu Patthana Jnana, or in simply Bhaya Jnana. So it's a kind of an insight, appear as a fear. Appear as a fear. But on the other hand, the answer is to improve your understanding about the cause and effect relationship. Because when you think that there is a person, there is I. So what is going to happen to this person? What is going to happen to this I? Now, this indicates the self-view. So when we have this self-view, so that is where contributing towards that fear. But on the other hand, if you have a very good understanding about cause and effect, there is no person here, there is no I here, rather it's a series of causes and effects constantly arising and passing away, then less impact. Because there is no ego to be sort of harmed, there is no person to be harmed, rather it's a sort of arising and passing away of causes and conditions, causes and results. So now the fear becomes less and less. So therefore, I mean, if you are encountering or if you are feeling this type of fear, so the solution is to recognize the arising aspect of various phenomena. What are the causes to arise these things? Try to look at the causes, try to go to the source. And to understand various causes, then more and more, and you can understand about the cause and effect relationships. And again, you can even read a book about Paticcasamuppada, talking about this causal relationship, dependent origination. So that also will help you to further improve your understanding about the Dhamma, and you can handle it, therefore. Yeah.
That's the last question, Bhante. I just have a quick announcement before we finish. So I said earlier, we want some feedback on the next session and also the Sutta selection. I put a link in the chat window. If you haven't filled it out, please go in there and have a look at it. With that, we'd like to conclude the session for today. We had a good number of questions, and we hope we continue getting more. And we can see even with attendance slightly down, we still got a good number of questions anyway, which is great. We'd like to thank Bhante and also pass our merits and our gratitude for continuing this program, along with the people working behind the scenes and also other people seen and unseen participating. And also mostly, I guess, a big thank you to everyone who's participated in the program, because without you, this program wouldn't happen. So with that, I'd like to conclude the program. Thero Sannai.
Thero Sannai.